Tim MacMahon, ESPN NBA reporter, he gave us The Wonder Boy, the book on Luka Doncic and the curse of greatness. He's been covering the Mavs as of late because we got some drama there. Nico Harrison gets fired. Was that just to placate the fans, Tim?
Howdy, Dan. I'd say there's a lot of justification for that one, including the fact that the reason the fans were outraged is because the man made the most shocking, the most controversial trade in NBA history, and it's been a complete disaster. I mean, this thing could not go worse. The Mavericks have the worst offense in the league, while Luka Doncic is lighting it up for the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Davis came into camp a little bit heavy, has a calf strain. I mean, they traded Luka for those exact reasons last year. Honestly, it was just a horrendous case of general manager malpractice, and it reached a point where there was no justification of Nico Harrison continuing to be the general manager of the Mavericks. It was only doing harm. The fury from the fans, that was the primary focal point. That was the dominant vibe when you walked in their arena. The players felt like they had a home court disadvantage. One player said it feels like our fans don't want us to win. And he was right because the fans wanted them to lose so Nico would get gone. And so it's a complete mess. They do have a chance to pivot out of it because the basketball gods gifted them the number one overall pick. Just complete luck. Obviously, not part of the plan. But it's going to take a lot of winning in the margins and a lot of smart moves to be able to build a sustainable contender around Cooper Flag. But that has to be the priority now, not trying to contend in this 3 to 4 year window Nico Harrison thought he created.
Okay, but I can blame Nico Harrison, but doesn't ownership have to sign off on this trade as well?
Absolutely. And listen, the firing of Nico Harrison is an admission of the obvious. The Mavericks made a colossal mistake when they traded Luka Doncic, and not just that they traded him, but that the way they went about it. You don't trade a five-time first-team All-NBA selection entering his prime, fresh off a finals appearance, and I could put a period there. But you don't trade that guy, especially as a pocket listing. Like, hey, top secret. We're not gonna create the biggest bidding war in NBA history. And so Patrick Dumont allowed Nico Harrison to be the one basketball voice in his ear. He got bamboozled. Oh my gosh, Nico Harrison took us to the finals. That's what he thought. No, dude. Luka Doncic took you to the finals. Yes, there were some moves to put some pieces around him, but come on. And it was new owner syndrome, just a complete disaster. My advice would be for Patrick Dumont to, whether it's a press conference, whether it's a preferably a one-on-one sit down with me, but to take verbal, visual accountability for it, and not kind of he put the letter out there. It was vague. It kind of danced around it. But what I would tell you is, yeah, it's also on Patrick Dumont, absolutely. And he was less than a year into being an NBA governor. He was listening to one person only, which is not the way to go about doing business. It's been a very difficult learning experience for him. And he understands there's a lot of work to be done to get this fan base fully back on board.
Why did Mark Cuban get kicked to the curb? And did he have any say in Nico Harrison getting fired?
Let me start with the last part. Cuban's been lobbying for Nico to get fired for a while. He was not alone. He had a lot of people lobbying with him. I'm not going to I'm not going to say that Cuban's lobbying was a primary reason or even a major factor, but listen, he laid out a logical case why they needed to move on. It wasn't difficult to do. And Patrick Dumont, one thing he realizes, hey, I Cuban's been doing this for a while, has been in this world for a while. I should at least listen to what he has to say, have dialogue with him instead of we're going to be trading the face of the franchise, Mark. Oh, actually, it's already done. Hey, I'm just giving you a courtesy call before it's about to be reported in 2 minutes, that was Cuban's involvement in that trade. Now, why did he get kicked to the curb? There's a lot there. One thing I will tell you, Cuban didn't help himself when he sold this franchise or the majority share of the franchise and cashed multi-billion-dollar check and then told everybody who would listen, hey, I'm still in charge of basketball operations. These people, it's just a real estate play for them. They don't know what they're doing with basketball. I do. I'm still in charge. Don't worry. When that was not part of the discussion of the deal. I don't know if he was trying to speak it into existence or, Cuban. I don't know how well you know Mark Cuban, but I don't think he'd do real well on polygraph tests on a regular basis. He tends to be a little bit full of, excrement. Um, but that didn't help because it's like, what kind of dummy do you think I am? We gave you all this money and you're telling everybody you're in charge when that's not the deal. So that didn't help. And I think Nico Harrison realized, wow, oh, Cuban says he's in charge. Dumont says he ain't. Let me go cozy up to the guy who is in charge. And Nico Harrison, former college basketball player, did a hell of a job boxing out. Great boxing out there. And, Cuban was complete. I called him the world's richest mascot. That was Mark Cuban's role, for the first probably year plus of Dumont's tenure as the governor.
Talking to Tim MacMahon, ESPN NBA reporter, banned MacMahon podcast on the Hoop Collective, and wrote the book, literally, on Luka Doncic and the curse of greatness. How would we know if Luka is getting better? I know he's in better shape, but what would you see since you wrote the book on him? What is different about him this year than maybe in previous years?
Well, one, let me just remind you, his last year with the Mavericks, he led the league in scoring, was rounding up, averaging a triple double, and took a roster that wasn't loaded with star talent around him. Kyrie's a co-star, but took that roster to the NBA Finals. So pretty high bar to get better from that. Now, I will say that I believe that this trade and frankly the way he was backstabbed and fat shamed and all those kind of things on the way out the door. And look, I reported on the fat shaming. The condition concerns are real, but it was embarrassing for him. It was a slap in his face. He has committed to conditioning in a more consistent way than he ever has before. You saw the body change. It's funny. The Lakers listed him at 244. That's actually 14 pounds heavier than the Mavs listed him. The Mavs just never updated the list. And the guy was in the 260s a lot of times in Dallas. So you see the commitment to conditioning. He's also, I think, grown up a lot in terms of understanding the importance of being a leader, exactly what a face of the franchise means. Having a working relationship with the front office. Luka never wanted anything to do with front office stuff early in his career. He didn't start giving input until the Mavericks completely bungled the Jalen Brunson situation and lost his co-star from the West Finals team for nothing. Now he's not only is involved on, like consistent dialogue with Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, but he's making phone calls. He's calling DeAndre Ayton. Hey, we need you here recruiting. Same thing with Marcus Smart. All things that a face of the franchise needs to do, um, to maximize their chances of success and things that, early in his career and even before the trade, that wasn't part of the Luka Doncic experience in Dallas.
I'll leave you with this. I'm wondering if ownership will just blow this up in Dallas. You look at, this draft coming up, there's probably 5 guys who could be the number 1 overall pick. There's a lot of talent there. And I wonder, you don't want to go into the next 3-4 years thinking you're going to get Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. You got Cooper Flag and almost admit, we need to start over. Would there be any sentiment towards trying to do that?
Well, it's complicated, okay? Because in successfully building a contender around Luka Doncic, you gave up your first round draft capital, either outright or via swap, 27, 28, 29, and 30, okay? And hey, 28, OKC. 29, Houston has now. 30, the Spurs have it. So not only did you give up, but your closest geographical rivals are going to have a downfall here. So, but you got gifted Cooper Flag, and this kid, look, he's
But
not
did he go
dominant
to the wrong place, though? Like Wemby went to the right place. Did Cooper Flag go to the wrong place?
so far. Now, hey, they've really got to get a lot of things right to be able to build a sustainable contender around him. Okay. Um, to your point, bottoming out this year, which they've done unintentionally so far. Like, hey, that's probably in the best interest long term of the franchise because this is their one and only chance to get a high, mid to high lottery pick and that type of talent to pair with Cooper and to grow with him. And I think look, they will have discussions at least internally about exploring the trade market for Anthony Davis. He's got to get back on the floor. They got to make sure he's not in a situation where he's going to aggravate the calf injury or worse. He will have some type of trade value. They've got to explore that. Kyrie Irving, it might be mutually beneficial for him just to take the whole year, focus on getting 100% healthy, not help them win a few more games down the stretch. But they can't do a complete rebuild, Dan, because if they're bad next season, they don't benefit the Charlotte Hornets do. If they're bad the year after that, OKC is going to get a high pick out of it, and then Houston, then San Antonio. So you can benefit from being bad 1 year and 1 year only. And the other thing is Cooper Flag wants to compete ASAP. They've got to get a lot of things right to give him that chance. It's obviously not going to be as a rookie.
Would you rather have Victor Wembanyama or Cooper Flag?
I mean, listen, would I rather have Victor Wembanyama or any other player in the NBA? Okay, that's not a fair question to Cooper Flag.
All right. I like the All-Star format. I didn't see the Hoop Collective if you guys were talking about it, but I do love that there is a chance that they play for pride.
Yeah.
And the world will play for pride. And maybe we have an all-star game that feels like it's an actual game. Your thoughts? You gave me a little bit of a grimace there. If we're playing poker, you don't like your hand.
Well, listen, here's the deal. I don't give a crap about the All-Star game. I don't. Dan, All-Star
But that's
week,
the problem, though, Tim. People don't care about the All-Star.
I'm the wrong guy. I'm the wrong guy. Because
Okay.
you know why? Dan, here's what I do on All-Star weekend. I cash in Marriott points and airline miles, and I take my wife to a beach somewhere. I'm not the target demographic. Now, the product has been poor, but I think it's an overblown thing because, like, the Pro Bowl, it's awful. Major League Baseball All-Star game, like, they're not competitive games. The NBA is the only league that acts like it's some kind of insane crisis.
But what if baseball did this and had the United States players against the world?
It does add some intrigue to it. And I was talking to somebody, I was in LA recently, and I was talking to someone close to Luka, and like Luka has shown zero interest in All-Star games. Same with his buddy Joker, right? And they said, hey, I think these guys are going to compete now. Like, to your point, the international players, I do think there's like, okay, hey, us against America. And, for the Americans, maybe it is like, dude, we can't just like, God, these guys are already winning all the MVPs.
I know.
Like, we can't let these guys just come in and dominate us. That's a bad look for us. So, look, it can get worse. And it's an interesting idea. I'll give them that. I don't know that I'll tune in as I'm sipping a cerveza on with my toes in the sand.
Thank you, Tim.
Adios, amigos.
Tim MacMahon, ESPN NBA reporter. Banned MacMahon podcast on the Hoop Collective.